So you've got this campaign idea, right? You've got this killer opening, some great NPCs, a few villains who are going to make your players sweat, but everything in the middle? Yeah, that's where your brain just buffers, like you're staring into the astral plane, waiting for the story to download. You can see session 1 crystal clear, you can feel the big finale, the dramatic showdown, the final dice roll, the tears, the cheers, but that stretch in between, that's just desert. And I get it, that's the hardest part. The middle is where most campaigns just collapse under their own potential. You can have the best lore, the prettiest maps, villains who talk like they're auditioning for a Netflix spin-off, and still end up sitting there at your own desk going, okay, but what the hell happens next? That's pacing, that's what you're missing, and that's what's going to save your game. See, people think they need more ideas. Nah, you already got the pieces, you just don't know what order they go in yet. And that's what we're fixing today, not by grinding your creativity into dust, but by understanding how to arrange what you've already got so it actually moves. Flamey, what the fuck is pacing? Pacing is the rhythm of your story, it's the pulse of your campaign, the speed at which everything unfolds and how your players feel time passing. In a book or movie, pacing's handled by editing or writing styles, or how fast someone reads. But at your table, you are the pacing. You're the narrator, the editor, the sound designer, the one that keeps attention tight enough to make people lean forward in their chairs. You control the silence, the chaos, all of it. If you run a tense political standoff where no blades are drawn, just daggers in people's eyes, that's slow pacing. You describe a carriage chase through rain-slick cobblestones with fireballs lighting up the road behind them, that's fast pacing. And a great campaign, it dances between both. The shift, the contrast, that's the art. You can't keep players at max adrenaline forever, they'll burn out, start cracking jokes, maybe throw dice at each other. But if every session's a slow crawl through dusty dialogue, they'll start scrolling on their phones under the table. The survival skill is in the mix. Tension, then release. Quiet, then chaos. A moment to breathe, then one to panic. And that, my lovers, is pacing. Now listen carefully. Pacing isn't about how fast things happen, it's about how you line them up. Most people think pacing means make it faster or slow it down, but no, it's structure. It's how you arrange your events so they make sense and feel connected. Picture your campaign like a song. Every scene's a note, every encounter's a beat. If every single one is a drum solo, your players are gonna need a nap. If it's all whispery flute music, nobody's gonna remember it. You need rhythm. Not perfect, not predictable, but deliberate. That's what keeps stories moving forward. That feeling like every session matters. And the best part? Pacing isn't something that just happens at the table. You can plan for it. It's the glue between your big ideas. Once you understand pacing, writer's block stops meaning, I'm out of ideas. It becomes, I just haven't figured out what comes next. And you know what? That's fixable. So let's fix it. Alright, imagine your campaign starts in a little coastal village. There's a murder mystery, a few shady NPCs, whispers of something dark rising from the sea. That's your start. You've got the setup, the intrigue, but then what? How do you get from the small town investigation to the final showdown with the seaborn god monster at the end? You don't need to map out 40 sessions, you just need rhythm. A rise, a fall, another rise, like breathing. And that's what I call mini arcs. Tiny self-contained stories that stack up to make one big one. Each one has a goal, rising tension, a small climax, and a resolution that actually changes something. The world, the characters, the stakes. Maybe the party hunts down a bandit lord, maybe they clear the cursed ruin and uncover a forgotten name. Or maybe they rescue a kid who later grows into something more important. Each of those is a mini arc, each one breathes. And when you start stringing them together, connecting the consequences of one to the start of the next, suddenly the campaign feels intentional. Like there's a hand guiding it, even if you're just making it up 5 minutes before the session. Your players will feel it, but maybe won't be able to describe it. And that's why they walk away saying, damn, that session flew by. Now let's talk about writer's block, because every GM's been there. You're not staring at a blank page because you've got nothing. You've got too much, and that doesn't line up yet. You know the party needs to get from the village to the necropolis. You know the villain's scheming in the shadows somewhere. And you've got random encounters, emotional beats, dream sequences, all of it floating around in your head. But you don't know how to connect them. You're missing direction, not content. It's not what happens next, it's what should happen next because of what just happened. That one thought and shift will change how you design forever. Next we'll talk about building those mini arcs and how to make them chain together naturally so the campaign feels like it's writing itself. Alright lava gremlins, here's the trick that changed everything for me. You don't plan one giant campaign, you just plan a bunch of little arcs that stack. That's the real flow of pacing. Each little arc climbs, hits a moment, then settles, then you roll into the next one, stack a few together and suddenly it just works. The story keeps moving, even when you're pulling half of it out of thin air behind the screen. That's how writers, filmmakers, and GMs fake genius. It's just stringing together loops of tension and release so smoothly that everyone swears you had it all mapped out. But you didn't, you just knew how to keep the rhythm going. Alright, so what the hell is a mini-arc, really? It's not some grand campaign outline or a 12-page lore doc about a duke's lost heir. It's just a story inside your bigger story, like a pulse or breath, or no, scratch that. Like a side quest that accidentally became the thing everyone talks about 3 sessions later. It starts with a goal. That goal hits friction. Then something changes. That change or success, failure, revelation, disaster, whatever, throws the world off balance just enough to kick the next little story. That's your fuel. That's your chain reaction. Imagine the party hears the blacksmith's apprentice went missing after chasing weird blue lights in the woods. That's your hook. Simple goal, find the kid. They search. They follow muddy footprints, torn cloth, maybe a bit of blood. Just enough to make your players start whispering. Scorch marks on tree bark. Someone's sword half buried in the mud. Then the forest opens up to this old, moss-choked well. So they climb down. Some crumbling, someone almost falls, someone else pretends they meant to, and at the bottom, the apprentice. Eyes wide shaking, surrounded by will-o-wisps feeding on his fear. That's your climax. Do they save him? Do they screw it up? Or do they find something way worse down there? Doesn't matter. Something changes, and now the story moves. That's a mini-arc. Setup, tension, climax, resolution, change. Not epic, just alive. It could be done in a single session, hell, an hour. It doesn't matter how long it takes, just how tight it feels. And once you're familiar with that, you can build an entire arc out of them, chain after chain, each one sparking the next, all driven by cause and effect. You know that moment where you're staring at your notes thinking, how the fuck am I supposed to get my players from level 1 to saving the multiverse? Yeah, it sucks, man. But the good news is you don't need to know that. You don't need to build the whole damn plot. You just need one goal. One clear, small thing that leads naturally into the next small thing. You're not writing Lord of the Rings. You're writing Find the Blacksmith's Apprentice. And then that ends, something new starts, and it continues on. They saved him. Cool. Now the Fae are pissed. They found the missing caravan. Great. Half the cargo's gone. You guys killed the cult leader. Wonderful. His notes mention another name though. Every ending hands you a new question. Every question demands another session. That's perpetual motion. And it never runs dry. The secret sauce isn't what happens next. It's what happens because of this. Which brings us to my favourite bit, the because of this method. Seriously, it's one of the smartest pacing tricks you'll ever use. At the end of every mini-arc, stop and say out loud, because of this. Because of this, the town doesn't trust the heroes anymore. Because of this, the villain learned their weakness. And because of this, a new threat crawled out of the swamp. If you ever catch yourself writing, and then this happened, stop, delete that shit. Replace it with, because of this. And then stories feel like someone's reading bullet points off a campaign recap thread. Because of this, stories feel like the world is reacting to your players breathing, twisting, and paying attention. It's not fancy, it's just cause and effect, but it makes everything feel earned. Turn it into a habit. After every session, look at what your players did and ask, alright, because of that, what happens now? Alright, let's talk about emotional rhythm. Yeah, I know, sounds like something out of a bad writing seminar, but this one actually matters, because pacing isn't just about what happens, it's about how it feels when it happens. Your players aren't going to remember the plot beats, they're going to remember how it felt, the dread when the torch sputtered out, and the laughter when the rogue crit failed a seduction roll, the quiet when the dice hit the table and nobody breathed. That's the flow. Mini-arcs are how you build that. Little emotional waves, each one hits, crashes, then rolls into the next. You start small, personal. The blacksmith's missing apprentice. Then it widens, the cursed village that made it happen. Then the forgotten god who cursed the village. Then the world-spanning mystery tied to that god. Each one slapping your player harder. Think about the Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings, and how they manage to feel perfectly paced. It's not one endless marathon from Shire to Mount Doom. It's a dozen little arcs strung together. Escape the Shire, survive the Nazgul, reach Bree, reach Rivendell, flight through Moria.
Flamey, you fools!
Cross Rohan, defend Gondor. You know what I mean? Every one of those is its own rise and fall. Satisfying on its own, but clearly part of something enormous. That's what you're aiming for at your table. Each session should feel like one of those steps. Complete enough to make everyone high five at the end, but pointing towards something bigger, you know? So how do you actually build one? Start with a goal. What does the party want right now? Doesn't have to be world ending. Find the lost relic. Survive the blizzard. Get the tavern keeper to talk. That's enough. Then add obstacle and pressure. What makes it hard? A rival adventuring team. A time limit. A moral choice that splits the party. These are your tension engines. Then you throw in a twist or a rising threat. Something goes wrong. The rival gets there first. The relic is cursed. The blizzard hides something with too many eyes. Then comes the climax and change. The moment the table leans in, dice hit, voices rise, something breaks, or something is revealed. And the world doesn't look quite the same after. after. And finally, end with because of this. Don't fade to black and move on. Ask, what changed? Who noticed? What does this cause? This is your bridge to the next arc. Do this again and again, and raise the stakes each time just a little bit, and you've got an immortal campaign. Each arc breathes into the next, like gears locking together. Looks perfectly paced from the outside, but you didn't script shit. You just kept the rhythm alive. Your job isn't to predict every scene, it's just to keep the pulse steady. Now let's talk about momentum and consequence, the because of this secret. You need to realize your story lives and dies because of cause and effect. Thinking this way makes your prep stop being about what happens next and starts being about what happens because of this. That one shift turns you from a GM who writes disconnected scenes into a GM who creates a chain reaction. Another scene to tickle your pickle. The party stops a cult mid-ritual, in a ruined chapel. Big fight, flashy magic, loot everywhere, session ends, everyone's happy, but you're not done. Because of this, someone important noticed. Or maybe because of this, a cultist escaped. Because of this, maybe the ritual half worked and something slipped through. Or, plot twist, the town elders were funding the cult all along. Hate them damn town elders. You see it, don't you? Each because of this moment launches a new arc. You don't have to drag your players towards the next plotline, the story just moves itself. Now Flamey, why does this work so well in tabletop games? Because unlike novels or movies, you're not in control. Your players are little lava gremlins with dice. They'll ignore your hooks, flirt with your villains, burn your maps, and go fishing in the middle of a siege. You can't predict them, but you can decide how the world reacts. That's what the because of this method gives you, a safety net, a logical engine. Your players ignored the mayor's plea for help. Because of this, the goblin raid goes unchecked, and refugees flood the nearby town. They rescued the wrong person. Because of this, the real hostage dies, and their family puts a bounty on your heroes' heads. You like that, don't you? Next up, the rule of progression. Every mini-arc, every because of this change should do at least one of three things. 1. Reveal something new about the world. 2. Deepen a character's story. 3. Escalate the stakes. If it does none of those, you're just spinning your wheels in a very expensive improv session. Back to that cult example. They stopped the ritual. Turns out the cult served a forgotten god. That's a world reveal. Because of this, your cleric starts doubting their faith. That's character development. And because of that, the god itself starts taking notice. And that's your escalation. That's the good stuff. Every beat growing from the last. Every climax climbing a little higher. Flamey, how do I chain arcs without losing my mind? Listen kids, you don't need a wall of red string and conspiracy notes to keep this working. You just need a clean one-to-one connection. Arc 1 leads to Arc 2, Arc 2 leads to Arc 3. No time skips, no meanwhile across the continent bullshit. Each link should feel like the next logical step in your campaign's heartbeat. It's that simple, honest, cause and effect. Alright, let's make this stupidly simple. You finish an arc, take a breath, then ask one question, what changed? That's it, that's your whole damn framework. Write one sentence, just one. Because of this, X happens. Then take that sentence and turn it into the next session's goal. Your party saves the prince from an assassination attempt. Because of this, the Assassin's Guild declares war on them. Next session, you wake up to the sounds of footsteps outside your safe house. Boom, you just built pacing. Stakes, continuity, with the snap of your shifty, scheming fingers. But what if my campaign starts sagging halfway through? Everyone's showing up, but it feels flat, like the story's going through the motions. That usually means you've got too many sessions without a because of this. Stuff happened, sure, but nothing connected. It's all floating in space. Fix it like this. Look back at 3 sessions. Ask yourself, where was your biggest player actions or story shifts? Then write because of this after each one. You'll spot it immediately, the thread that still has tension left on it. That one event that wants to move forwards. Grab it, give it a tug. That's your next adventure. You're just unclogging a pipe of narrative pressure. You don't need to add water, you just need to let stuff that's already there flow again. Let's tie that to emotion, because pacing isn't just about consequence, it's about how the player feels when the consequences land. If they failed to save someone, then 3 sessions later, have that person's sister show up. Not to fight them, just to ask quietly, what happened? If they succeed in something heroic, let it echo. A statue in the town square, a bard writing a terrible song about it, a favour owed by someone important. That's emotional consequence, not just logic or weight. You're showing your players everything they do matters. It makes your prep easier every week as well. You don't need to invent quests from thin air. Your players act, the world reacts, new situation appears, they act again. It's a self-sustaining story engine. It's how good TV works, and how great movies build tension. Each episode changes just enough to make the next inevitable. If you start doing that with your campaign, you won't even have to plan pacing anymore. You can just ride it out and feel it. Your players will be saying things like, man, that session flew by. And you'll be sitting there behind your screen, pretending it was luck. But you'll know the truth. That shit was by design. So you've got the rhythm under your skin now. Good. Now let's talk about how to build that rhythm on purpose. No, it doesn't just happen, silly. You don't roll initiative and magically hit the perfect flow. You shape it minute by minute or scene by scene. You need to feel it from your table when that energy dips, that slow shuffle of dice, or the distracted phone glance, or the other way around when it spikes, the half-yelled plans, wait, let me try something. That's pacing in real time, and a current you need to learn to surf. And you'll get there eventually. You'll stop fearing the middle of your campaign, that long stretch where stories usually sag and the GM starts panicking with filler side quests. Here's my secret spice that I use for every session. About once an hour, something needs to shift. Doesn't matter how long your sessions are, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever. There's this invisible 1 hour pulse that controls the tempo. Every 60 minutes there should be a reveal, a change of tone, a sudden danger, or a win or loss. Something that shakes the table awake. It doesn't have to be big or meaningful. If you don't do that, and nothing changes after an hour, you can feel the pacing start to flatline, and that's even how great groups end up feeling like they're treading water. So check in with yourself mid-session. What's the pulse right now? If the energy's low, inject tension. If it's high, give them a breath. That's the 60-minute spine, the micro version of your campaign's entire rhythm. Pacing also doesn't come from keeping things consistent, it comes from contrast, from the push and pull between tension and relief. And you've got 5 main levers to yank when things start to stall. Your first lever is time pressure. Drop a clock on them, crumbling ceiling, guards on patrol, or a summoning seconds from completion. And you'll start to see focus slam back into the place immediately. Players under pressure stop dithering, they move, you know? 2 is information. Don't dump everything at once, drip feed it. If players know too much, tension dies. Know too little and they'll get lost. And the sweet spot? Give them just enough to make a decision, then twist the knife right after they do. 3 is consequence. Let actions land. When something succeeds, let the world notice, and when it fails, let it hurt. Every visible consequence spiking energy. 4 is stakes. Personal beats, global every time. The village might burn hits less than your hometown might burn. Make it personal. That's how you keep adrenaline pumping instead of brains calculating. 5 is tone. The tone is your instant reset button. Too heavy? Drop in a weird NPC. Too goofy? Let the silence settle like a held breath. The shift alone re-engages everyone. Each of these levers is a volume knob for your session. Quiet, loud, use them like instruments. And your games start to breathe, just like a film or good music. And here's another thing that's easy to forget. Pacing isn't just about a rhythm or flow, it's about amplitude. Each arc should hit harder than the last. Not in damage numbers, in meaning. The first few arcs, discovery, new towns, new faces, the map's wide open. The middle, escalation, actions start to stick, villains reoccur, failures echo. By the finale, every choice feels like it's carrying history on its back. And that's the rising amplitude, the slow build where consequences stack until the table feels that weight in their chests. It's why your ending feels earned, because every smaller arc builds pressure until this one has to explode. Alright, this is the big one. The holy shit, I don't actually need 50 pages of notes moment. I call this the 1 card prep trick. This one's straight out of my own brain. The thing that saved me over and over planning every campaign until my prep folder looked like a crime scene. Open a note on your phone or grab a scrap of paper, something small, and all you have to do is write 4 lines on it. Today's goal. What this session wants to feel like, emotionally or narratively. 1 rising beat, the moment tension starts climbing. 1 turning point, the reveal or reversal that changes direction. 1 resolution, how the world or party shifts afterwards. And that's your whole prep. Everything else, the NPC banter, the setting flavour, the weird goblin dialogue you make up on the fly, it's just texture. If you can hit those 4 beats in order, your pacing will feel tight even after everything catches fire. And it's flexible as hell. If your players derail everything halfway through, and they will, just glance at the card, find your turning point, and drop it in where it fits. Boom. Rhythm restored. No stress needed here, kids. So now we've got the whole picture, zoom out. You've got your start, your villains, your big finale glowing up the horizon like a thunderstorm. That messy middle that usually kills campaigns, it's not a problem anymore. It's just rhythm. A chain of mini arcs, consequences and shifts. Keep practicing until you get it right, and then your campaign will stop feeling like a bunch of separate sessions, and more like a world that's moving and living whether the players are watching or not. And the best bit is they'll stop asking what happens next, and they'll start saying we have to see what happens next. So hey you, I see you there, staring at your campaign notes, lost somewhere in the middle. Here's your reminder. You don't need the whole path, you just need the next step, 1 mini arc at a time. Every scene causes the next, ride the rhythm, adjust the tempo, keep the world alive. That's your job, not predicting the story, just keep it breathing. Guess what? You're a master of pacing now. Let me know in the comments if you actually use pacing like this. What works for you, what doesn't. Help the rest of us out. And as always, stay spicy, adventurers.